To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas.
Here's a wild ride in the whistle.
When industry doors change.
I need to shout out to Christina this week. She brought me some Gideon's cookies home from Florida. So I really appreciate that. They've been delicious. I had the breakfast one this morning, only half of it. Man, them things are huge. But I had half of one, and it was so good. Like, I immediately brought memories back of staying. And the first time I had Gideon's was at the Contemporary. And it just, like, getting up in the morning, eating some leftover cookie, and having my coffee, it just brought back those memories. So
today on Miles from Main Street, we are talking about deluxe resorts. Are they worth it? We're going to find out.
I'm telling you right now, they're worth it. I have stayed at one, only one, which is sad, but I've stayed at one, and I like it. And I don't know. Everyone says it, and I agree with them. Once you've gone deluxe, you're not going back.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of banking on that because I really do want to stay at a deluxe resort, and I think once I kind of finally pull that trigger on Vacation Club, I'll be able to do that more. But I honestly haven't stayed deluxe yet. Obviously, I really want to because that's like, I mean, a lot of these resorts are bucket lists of mine. But I have some reasons that I don't stay deluxe that we're going to kind of go over today. But yeah, like kind of my background, I haven't stayed at any deluxe resorts. I've been to Disney an enormous amount of times, but I've just never had that experience. I've never stayed deluxe. I have, however, explored a lot of deluxe resorts. I've been on deluxe property for long periods of time. So I've kind of experienced that part of staying deluxe. And I mean, I've been in some rooms of deluxe rooms, but I mean, I've never stayed there, and it's never been my home resort before. Brian, on the other hand, has stayed deluxe and definitely stayed at one of my must-do resorts. That's a deluxe resort, which is the Contemporary. Brian, just going to tell us a little bit about that and what you enjoyed about it.
You know, staying at the Contemporary is awesome. When we stayed there, we stayed Garden Wing, and we had our own little parking lot off to the side. So we had driven down because of the short notice that we booked our trip. We had driven, so we had our car, and it was nice having that parking lot right there that we were able to get right to our car. It was really nice. Of course, I asked for a room close to the tower, first floor. I got one third floor in the back of the room, or the back of the building, which actually was a blessing in disguise, because here's amenity number one. We were able to open our door, which it's just a Juliet balcony, so you don't actually have a balcony, but you have a door like a balcony. And so we were able to open that door every night and watch the electrical water pageant. It was awesome to be able to do that every night. This is one of those rooms that has 2 queen beds, and I mean, I think most of the Contemporary rooms are like this. 2 queen beds and that fold-down twin bed, which was the perfect size for my, at the time, 8-year-old daughter. So, perfect. And we all fit wonderfully. There was plenty of room to throw all the crap we were buying during the week, because we didn't want to store it in the car and all that heat. But anyway, we had planned this trip to spend time at the pool, to do a little more relaxing and a little less time in the parks. I think that is a key to staying in a deluxe resort. If you're not going to enjoy the amenities, don't pay for it. If you're just looking for a bed, find the cheapest bed and sleep in it. So the Contemporary, I mean, you're a 5-minute walk away from the Magic Kingdom. How bad can that be, right? I don't want to get into all the specifics, but I mean, my main key right here is that if you want a bed to sleep in to just while you're going to all the parks, then you find that cheap bed. Otherwise, if you want to use the amenities at a deluxe resort, they're well worth it.
Yeah, and we can kind of talk about transportation. That's kind of one thing I want to talk about. And we can also talk about what makes a deluxe resort a deluxe resort. So now, bringing that up, transportation is a big part of that. And location, really. What kind of transportation do you have? What is your location compared to the parks? A lot of these deluxe resorts have multiple ways of transportation, and they also have their vicinity to the park is extremely close. A couple of them are within walking distance of parks. So that's something that kind of denotes whether or not a resort is a deluxe resort. So that's pretty important. And yeah, when you stay at the Contemporary, I've walked from the Magic Kingdom to the Contemporary. It's not a long walk. It's very doable, and the walk itself is rather nice. It's very cool, kind of walking into that A-frame of the Contemporary and being able to do that. So yeah, vicinity compared to the parks is very important in whether or not something is a deluxe resort. There are other resorts, like moderate resorts will have just about, like two means of conveyance to parks most of the time. So sometimes it's like if it's on the Skyliner, or if they have buses and they have like a water taxi or something like that. But deluxe resorts, usually the transportation is at a premium, and it's not very. You don't have to wait very long for transportation, and you don't have to wait very long to get yourself to a park. So that's always pretty important.
And if you're leaving a park, you're going to have a good time getting a bus as well, because they kind of give you a little bit of a premium there because they know what you're paying, right? So getting to and from parks can be pretty easy when you're staying deluxe. I mean, that is something to consider. I still don't think it's worth the price of paying what you're paying at a deluxe if you're just looking for a bed. But if you're wanting to get back and forth, I mean, we stayed too long at Magic Kingdom one night, and the monorail was no longer running, so we made the walk back, and it was worth it. I mean, like you said, it's not that far of a walk, and it was nice. I mean, it was a great night for a walk, so why not? The other great thing was that the monorail goes right through the Contemporary, so we could just jump on it and take a ride if we wanted to. We did that a couple of times. We did that before we got in the car to leave. I said, let's go up to the lobby, let's jump on the monorail, we'll do the loop one more time, and off we go. And so those are the things that you need to consider, like how much are you going to use these amenities? Having the different restaurants in the building that you're staying in is a big deal. We were looking for a meal one night when we were in Magic Kingdom, and we were actually able to mobile order from, rest in peace, the Wave restaurant. But we mobile ordered from there. It was delicious. We picked it up. We went upstairs by Chef Mickey's to the open seating there, grabbed a table, had some dinner. It was wonderful. So it's definitely, like, you need to think about these amenities as you're going. So, like you said, the transportation. Another thing to think about is the views you're getting. What kind of views are you going to get from the hotel you're staying in? Yeah,
and obviously the deluxe resorts are going to be the more lavish resorts, so they are going to be in some of those premium spots to be able to see things. And you can also, and this is kind of every Disney resort, but the deluxe resorts, there's a huge difference between like if you're going to have like a pool view or a park view. If you've got a park view at a deluxe resort, then you wake up every morning and you open the blinds and you see Magic Kingdom. And so that's a pretty big deal. But yeah, that's another thing that Disney tends to upcharge anyways on most hotel rooms, is the view. But yeah, restaurants, that's a big one. I believe the count is 3. Typically, deluxe resorts have 3 different dining areas. Usually there's a cafeteria style place, and then there's typically like 1 or 2 sit down areas. There can be bars too, kind of like all around. But yeah, that's usually another telltale sign that you're staying at a deluxe resort is the dining. And it's usually, again, like on another level. Like oftentimes I would make reservations for a hotel restaurant because that hotel restaurant is so amazing, like Ohana, and other stuff like that. So yeah, that's things are just kind of on another level. You definitely get more things and more places to enjoy while you're at a deluxe resort. Things like club level rooms. Club level, if you don't know what that means, you are kind of, you have your own like little lounge on club level. So they actually like give you like free food and refreshments and stuff like that. So that's very fun. I believe the only moderate that has a club level is Coronado Springs, but that's only in the tower. And so my little hack that I've been saying for a while is if you want to feel deluxe and you want to pay actually low level moderate prices, because it's not the most expensive moderate resort, go stay at Coronado Springs. The tower does tend to get a little pricey, but it's still like not as much as you're going to be paying for a deluxe resort, and you're getting deluxe amenities. But yeah, these amenities are plentiful while you're staying at these deluxe resorts. You've got transportation, you've got several restaurants to choose from, we've got different room types, and just kind of service that is out of this world, really, with other hotels. They are world-renowned hotels. So that's kind of my synopsis of deluxe resorts. Brian, do you have anything else?
I really enjoyed that we had a Keurig in our room, and they provided the coffee pods with Joffrey's coffee in them.
It's the little things.
It's the little things. It is. It's the little things. And, we got that. You got the premium H2O beauty products that, I was trying to stash them away in my bag. And I don't know, like I think they kind of realize when people are doing that now, because like there's no way someone could go through that much in one stay. But I was trying to get some. I wanted to touch on the pool. When you're staying deluxe, not only are you getting a nice pool, but you're getting a slide. And like there was actually 2 hot tubs around this pool, and the slide was a lot of fun. My daughter was on it all the time. The other 2 loved it as well. If you guys haven't caught on quite yet, I have a younger daughter and 2 older kids, teenagers. So they all loved the pool though. And, if you're thinking you just want a pool to splash in for an hour or so, again, go find the cheap pool. But if you want something that you're going to relax by and enjoy, which is what we did this trip, is we were looking for something to enjoy the pool. I mean, we were at that pool every other day, and we were there. If we were in a park if we were in a park one day and the pool was still open that night, we went down there and jumped in the pool. it was a great amenity to have. And there was a nice pool and snack bar, which you don't really have that at a lot of the other places where you'll have a pool bar and a snack bar. So you could get all the different things you might need. I had a darn Mickey pretzel every day I was standing at that pool, and I didn't have to worry about it when I was in the park. It was amazing. So, like that was something that we had pointed out that we wanted on this trip, was to be able to sit at the pool, have activities for our kids to do, because they have cast member led activities around the pool. And I mean, every pool on property has that, but we wanted that, and we wanted the extra touch that you get at a deluxe resort for that pool.
Yeah, and I believe, so just kind of like comparing this to other resorts, usually moderate resorts will have several pools, and a lot of these resorts will have several pools. Moderate resorts will have several pools, also a hot tub, sometimes a slide. But the pools themselves will be, I guess, less luxurious than deluxe resorts. But they're still pretty close. Moderate. There is some moderate pools out there that are pretty awesome. And then usually value resorts, there again are several pools in these resorts, but they're very basic. But some of these pools are themed very well. You're not going to see slides. The biggest pool on property is at a value resort, but that's also because these value resorts are high capacity resorts, so they need several pools and large pools to serve all these people. And I mean, that's another talking point. There are going to be, other than Animal Kingdom Lodge. Animal Kingdom Lodge is huge. There are going to be less people staying at these resorts with you, just because of the deluxe price tag. So that does mean that, like buses are going to be easier, pools are going to be easier, just navigating the resort is going to be easier. And I don't think any of these, except for maybe Contemporary, I don't think any of these are convention hotels.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I think you're right. I think the convention.
The Contemporary has a convention center, or they may just have like a meeting space. But yeah, a lot of these deluxe resorts won't be convention hotels, whereas there are other moderate resorts that are basically like convention hotels where they have convention spaces. So you may be intermingling with business people. Who knows? But yeah, those are some pretty big things that you can get with deluxe resorts. And I'll just mention that they're more expensive and they're a lot more lavish. Probably one of the hotels that I'm starting to really fall in love with is the Grand Floridian, and it's because it just kind of has that lavish feel. But you should know that these resorts, even like the Polynesian Resort, the Contemporary Resort, the Grand Floridian Resort, they are all very accessible. Like you don't. You'll be dropping a lot of money. You're dropping a lot of money anyways. You're going to Disney, but they're always very accessible for anybody, really. Like you can show up in shorts and a t-shirt, and you may feel weird at first because you're stepping into this lavish resort, but there will be several other people wearing a Disney t-shirt and shorts walking around because you're at Disney. Like that's what people are going there to do. So some people do tend to get it can be a little daunting walking into these resorts and paying this much money and thinking that you have to be fancy all the time. You don't have to. You're there to enjoy Disney. Other people are there to enjoy Disney as well. Just go enjoy Disney how you're going to do Disney and come back to your fancy hotel at the end of the night.
The last thing I have is you're there for Disney, as you were saying, and The one perk that I find is starting to be really worth it with these deluxe resorts is after hours time. The extra, I don't know what they call it, but the extra magic hours that you can get after after hours. It's proving to be very useful. And if I'm staying in a deluxe resort, you might not want to stay all day in a park. You might want to go back and take a nap and get some air conditioning. So to have that extra time at the end of the day to run around the park quick for a couple of hours and get a little bit more in, I think that's huge. I think that having that perk is actually worth staying at a Disney resort, at a deluxe resort. So just wanted to get that one in there.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And that is something that's rather new. They've had it now for a little while, but it's something that only deluxe resort guests get, which I've never experienced, but I think that's pretty huge to be able to do that as a deluxe resort guest. So we've talked about all of the great things about deluxe resorts. Now let's kind of talk about reasons why you may not want to stay at a deluxe resort. Reason number one is kind of the obvious reason: you just don't have the money. These are expensive resorts. You can pretty easily spend $800-900 a night on these resorts. I think when I look, the least expensive resort, which it used to be like the resort, like because it was new and it was fun and everything, but the least expensive resort now, deluxe resort, is Animal Kingdom Lodge, which is on my bucket list. Like I want to stay at Animal Kingdom Lodge at some point, mainly because my friend, me and Paul Kramer, my friend, Paul, if you're out there, one day we will get to stay in a room at Animal Kingdom Lodge, but we ended up running around that hotel trying to find this room that our friend gave us. But I think I've told that story before. We don't got enough time for that. But yeah, it's a great hotel. That this one can go from anywhere from like $500 to $600 a night. But like, yeah, these are expensive hotels. Like you're going to be shelling out a lot of money. And I think just kind of like that idea of like, is it worth it? Like, are you spending this money because you're going to be spending a whole lot of time on these amenities that the hotel is giving you? Maybe you just want to be bougie and you want to stay at a deluxe resort and just kind of enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. That's fine. But yeah, the resorts, they're expensive. There's really no way around it. And that's kind of why I mentioned before, I kind of want to go vacation club, because these resorts all of a sudden become a points-based system and you're kind of like paying for your Disney trips throughout the year. So it makes them a lot more palatable than spending all like you can easily spend in the thousands on just a Disney trip if you stay deluxe. So yeah, that's another big thing is they are expensive.
They are expensive, but I think we've discussed that you do have quite a bit of amenities for that price. And that goes back to what I said earlier is if you're going to spend time in the parks, there's no reason to stay at a deluxe resort. And that's something you need to consider is, if you're not going to be using the amenities, there's no reason to stay in that resort. Go find something else. Take some of that money you're saving and use an Uber so you can get around all the transportation issues that come with staying in a value resort. Stay off property in that case. I mean, if you're just wanting to run the parks, other than the benefits you get with Genie Plus, there's no reason that you really need to be on property. So, go get something cheap, have your bed so that you can get back up and rope drop the next day. I mean, I've done those trips, open to close every day, and we'll stick a day off in the middle just to recharge. And you don't need the whole big shebang that we're talking about with a deluxe resort in that case. So, that's something to consider when you're looking at how your trip is going to flow.
Yeah, and this is something that I have mentioned before in the past, where it's like I'm just looking for a bed, and that's the way I'm functioning right now in my Disney going experience. I did have a moment with Kristen where we're currently trying to go in October, and we're trying to put some things together, and we were looking at like when we were going to be where, and I was kind of like, oh, hey, like we could park hop over here and do this. And then we could do this. And her first thing was like, oh, that's going to take away from park time. And it's like that's our mentality right now. Like, is it going to take away from my park time? So like, that's just kind of where we're at right now, where like we want to utilize the most amount of time we can in those parks. And when we come back to the hotel is just a hotel. The fact that it's on Disney property and most of the time it's themed pretty whimsically and we love that. That's great. But we're just not utilizing these amenities. We're not even really utilizing the amenities that value resorts give us most of the time. Like, I don't think we had breakfast and I think we did order a pizza at one point, but like we really didn't eat all that much at our hotel when we were there. We were usually eating somewhere else on property or in a park. So and so that's the thing, is that if you go, you spend all this money on a hotel and then you end up being in the parks the entire time, like you're gonna feel bad that you spent all this money and aren't using all these things that you spent money on, even if you stay in a moderate resort. And because I mean, moderate resorts kick up the amenities by a lot when you're going from value to moderate, and then when you go from moderate to deluxe, there's a little bit of a kick up there. But I mean, that's the thing, is that like these hotels are meant to be there and be lavish and be fun. And if you're doing that in the parks, like you're just not getting your money's worth of what you spent.
You kind of touched on something as well, where you said you ate in the other resorts, and I have lots of thoughts on how to do your Disney trip, and it starts with you can spend whatever you want. You can make it as cheap as you want. You can make it as expensive as you want. The only constant is going to be park tickets, and having those park tickets, that's the part you have to figure out how to afford. The rest of it, I mean, if you want to sleep in your car, you can do it. So, and maybe that's another episode we can do one of these days, is, how to do these trips and afford it. But, like we've done a trip where we wanted to stay at a nicer place and didn't have the money. So we said, forget it. That's our bed. And we spent the rest of the day out at all the deluxe resorts, all these different places, enjoying the different amenities that are available on the resort. So, that's another way to think of it. If you don't want to pay for it but still enjoy it, you can have the bed at the Value Resort. We loved having that, and we did enjoy getting back at midnight and having our dessert from California Grill at the, table poolside at our Valley Resort. It was still wonderful. So it's definitely a different way to think about it and how you want to handle your trip. Putting in maybe a little bit of extra work to do it, but saving a few $100s a night can really help. So, like you were saying, you're at all these different spots eating, and you're off all over these places. Maybe that means you don't need to have the swanky room at the same time. So, Yeah, you really have to think about how you're going to do your trip.
Yeah, and another thing you have to think about is at these value resorts and at moderate resorts. These value and moderate resorts are very big. There are some moderate resorts that are like huge. That are the biggest resort is a moderate resort. So you will be with a lot of people. That can make transportation kind of a bear. There are several moderate resorts and some value resorts that literally have internal bus loops. Technically, the All-Stars are all one. Like it's all one thing because it's all on one bus route. They're individual, like they have individual areas that you check in and everything, lobbies, but it's all just one big bus route. So you have to deal with those crowds. You have to deal with all of those people. You don't get that at deluxe resorts because there's a good amount of people there, sure, but you're not dealing with the same kind of volume of people that are staying at these moderate and at these value resorts. So that's another thing that you kind of have to grapple with, and kind of understand that like that's also another thing that you may have to deal with.
Yeah, and when we were staying at Contemporary, we probably had like the farthest room. Like there were a couple of rooms further, but we were pretty much as far as you can get from the lobby. I still didn't mind having to walk there. I don't know if it's just that I was at the Contemporary and it didn't bother me or what, but it's not that far. So what the value resorts have spread out, the Contemporary has built up. So you're taking an elevator to your room instead of walking all that time. So it's, there's that to consider too, that maybe you're out all day long and you don't want to have that long walk at the end of the day back to your room. So you're going to pay extra to have a room that's closer.
Probably the last thing that we should touch on that is a positive for value resorts is they are very, very kid friendly. So if you're going with kids, these value resorts are basically made for them. All value resorts, very kid friendly. A lot of their architecture is larger than life. You've got huge characters, lots of photo spots that you can go and enjoy hanging out with your kids with. Value resorts, very kid friendly. That is also sometimes a little bit of a negative where you are kind of surrounded by kids all the time. But I mean, if you have a kid and you're a parent, they're going to be very, very good resorts to take your kids to. But having said all of that, now are deluxe resorts worth it? Like, are they worth it?
After staying at one, I say yes. And that's how I started this episode. I said, yes, they're worth it. And you're not going to change my mind.
So for me, and I haven't stayed at one yet. And it's hard for me to think that I would spend $800 to $900 to possibly $1,000 a night and not even be at the hotel to enjoy these things. However, I do want to do that at some point. I do want to be able to rip myself away from the parks to enjoy other things around Disney, and I've done that before. I've done non-park days. I've had days where I've been in Disney Springs. I've utilized some of the things that you can do at deluxe resorts. So I've done it before. There have been times where I will leave the hotel and this wasn't on a resort that was on property, but this was when I stayed off property at the Wyndham, which is technically, we don't have to get into it, but it's technically a Disney resort. It's a Disney controlled resort. But we were staying at the Wyndham. We would leave in the morning and the pool would be closed because it hadn't opened yet. We would come back at night and the pool would still be closed. So it's like we weren't even able to utilize the pool because we were in the parks and we were at downtown Disney and doing all of these other things for so long that by the time we came back to the hotel, all of the amenities were closed. That is kind of different and this is why I talked about the Wyndham. It's different with Disney hotels because there are some Disney hotels where they won't yell at you if you're in the pool at midnight. People might not be happy about it, but there are hotels out there that you can utilize the pools almost like 24 hours. But that was just very telling for me when I went on that trip and stayed at a non-Disney hotel and just realized how much time I spend away from the hotel. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me to justify that with enjoying my park time so much. Now, these hotels, again, are bucket lists of mine. I want to stay at them. Their allure is just so great that like I can't not want to stay at them. And just being in them and just spending time in them, I would have to say yes, they're worth it. But I feel like I need to adjust how I vacation when I go to one. So then the next question is like, do you want to? Brian, it sounds like you have gone and you adjusted your vacationing habits and it went very well.
Yeah, and anytime anyone's asked about should I stay at Contemporary or should I stay at Value Resort, whatever, I will say it depends on how you want your vacation to go. I've said it the entire episode, and I'll keep saying it. If you want a bed, find a cheap bed. If you want to enjoy a resort, go deluxe because you're going to love it and it's going to be amazing. But it all depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to enjoy the amenities, get the deluxe. If you're going to just go to the parks, find a cheap bed. That's how I boil it down. I mean, there's a lot that we've talked about in between there. But I'm starting to find that my trips, I don't want to have to do parks open to close anymore. I want to be able to enjoy the hotel more. So that's why I'm saying I'm probably going to try to find ways to afford deluxe from here on out. Just because I've been spoiled and I like it.
Yeah, I that's definitely the goal right now is to start staying deluxe. Moderate is definitely the next step here for me. But then again, it's like, I don't know, if you want to do a Disney trip on the cheap, and we'll do an episode on this, but yeah, like staying value, and there's several other things you can do to keep that trip cheap. But you're right, the only constant is you have to pay for those park tickets, and they're always going to be that constant. So, but yeah, we want to hear what you think. What do you think? Are deluxe resorts worth it? What are some deluxe resorts that you've stayed at? Do you prefer value resorts? Do you prefer moderate resorts? Which resort is your favorite? Let us know.
Definitely let us know out on Facebook, and go check out the website www.milesfrommaineST.com.
Well, I think that was a good talk. I do think that deluxe resorts are worth it, and I definitely want to stay at one sometime soon. But like we always say, some live close,
but others don't.
So let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.